So John Solomon from The Hill is reporting something that will be a smoking gun if true and may be the final nail in the coffin of the corruption that started the Russia investigation. Now keep in mind, it's very important to know how did we start getting into this investigation into Russia and how was Trump's team initially connected to it? Because we know people connected to Trump and on his campaign team were spied on, were wiretapped, and because of that, Trump himself and other people on his team could also have been wiretapped and spied on. And it was an investigation that still to this day is plaguing the president, led directly towards the calls for obstruction of justice for him now, stymied him for 2 years in his agenda, and most Democrats, most polling shows, over 50% of Democrats still believe Trump's a Russian asset. Even though the Mueller report confirmed that that's not true at all. There's no evidence that Trump or anyone connected to his team broke any laws in connection with the 2016 election working with Russians. The start, we were told first, was kind of this dossier. It was the first thing that came out. They had to quickly change the narrative because it turns out the dossier was never verified and was paid for by Hillary Clinton and her team. So that looked bad. So they went with this other story. For those of you who don't know, it's real simple. This low-level Trump-connected guy, George Papadopoulos, ran into this guy, Joseph Mifsud, who's this shady professor. Mifsud says, hey, I have some Russian intelligence friends that say that they have dirt on Hillary Clinton. And so Papadopoulos meets one of these Russians. The Russians say, we have emails from Hillary Clinton. Papadopoulos then gets drunk and tells a diplomat from Australia named Alexander Downer, who was integral in helping the Clinton Foundation obtain a bunch of money at one point. Hey, he gets drunk and says, I heard this Russian said they have emails, Hillary emails. And that was it. That alone, that story's so flimsy that that's a reason to get warrants to spy on people. We know, for example, that the FBI or other Western intelligence agencies set an agent, a spy named Stephen Halper, and someone with the code name Azra Turk to spy on Papadopoulos, and all sorts of shadiness to this. But now we have from John Solomon from The Hill saying that he actually talked to Mifsud's lawyer, who has audio deposition proving that actually Mifsud was directed by Western intelligence to start this entire ball rolling. Now, if you go back and you look at, I believe it's Jim Jordan's questioning of Bob Mueller and Mueller's testimony, it was the most damning part of the questioning that occurred. What Jim Jordan asks is this: who was the start of these claims? That because this is the entire start of the Russia investigation. It started July 31st, 2016, we were told. The entire start was this, that Papadopoulos mentioned that Russians had these emails and the FBI thought that was a reason to open an investigation into whether or not Russia hacked emails of Hillary Clinton and whether or not Trump-connected people were connected to him. That was the beginning of it all. So who was the person who started the ball rolling? That was Joseph Mifsud. And Mueller admits, yes, Mifsud was the first person who made these claims, who said he had connections to Russian intel people who had hacked or had emails of Hillary Clinton. We also know that Jim Jordan gets Mueller to admit that when he was interviewed by the FBI, Mifsud lied 3 times to the FBI. So why would Mueller fail to charge? He charged Papadopoulos, who broke no other crime, but he charged him with lying. He charged Russian Facebook trolls. But here we have someone who's supposedly a high-level Russian asset, who's connected to these Russian intelligence officials that we know's lied to the FBI, that was the person who started the entire ball rolling. And he's not charged. And Jim Jordan, at the end of his question, he goes, was he Western intelligence or Russian intelligence? And Mueller says, I can't answer it. And yes, that's the case. I've been talking about this. There were all of Mifsud's friends said they were shocked to find out that he was connected to Russian sources because he always had way more connected sources to Western intelligence agencies, such as intelligence agencies in the US and the UK, the Italian intelligence agencies. In fact, some of the universities he worked with worked heavily with Western intelligence agencies. So it seemed really shocking this person with connections to Western intelligence agencies somehow under the radar was working with the Russians all along. Well, now we know from Mifsud's own lawyers that Mifsud's claim is, no, I was told directly by Western intelligence agencies to set up these meetings with George Papadopoulos and connect him to Russians. Now, this all sounds very confusing, so let me just break it down real simply. The original allegation, there had to be a start of the Russia investigation. Had to be a start. We're talking about spying on political opponents. The Obama agency weaponizing the most powerful intel agency in the history of the world to go after his opponent. Remember, Watergate, which got Nixon impeached or got Nixon kicked out of office, was such a big deal because you had a couple of bumbling stooges spying on their opponent's paperwork and looking through it in a hotel. Imagine instead of a couple bumbling stooges, you had the most powerful investigative agency in the history of the world doing that, being able to wiretap on people, getting complete access to all of the information that's going on within the Trump campaign, searching for any crime, allowing an investigation to go even 3 years in to Trump's campaign or Trump's presidency, which stymied his agenda, to which still public opinion of him is hampered by his supposed connections to Russia. All of this crap. What was the start of it? Well, it was because Papadopoulos heard from Russians that they had emails on Hillary Clinton, and then the DNC and Podesta were hacked. That must prove that somehow Trump was connected to this and we need to investigate it. Well, no, it turns out that the Western intelligence agencies actually made the whole story up in the first place. They didn't like Trump. He was seen as a potential outsider. They wanted to spy on him. This is Obama's administration. Wanted to spy on Trump's team, their opponent. Wanted to help Hillary Clinton. So they made up a story. They went to one of their assets, Joseph Mifsud. They said, feed this line to George Papadopoulos, this low-level person. Then they sent their spies, Stephen Halper and Azra Turk, and they kept saying, what do you think about Russia? What do you think about Russia? Trying to get George Papadopoulos to spill the beans and say, yeah, actually, I heard that Russia might have emails. That's it. And when he finally does tell Alexander Downer that he's heard that, that's the connection that the FBI and the intelligence agencies use to say, okay, now we can spy on people connected to Trump. The whole thing is a sham. If this is true, and John Solomon from The Hill has been very good on reporting from the beginning of this story. This is being totally ignored by all the mainstream media that just wanted to say, Russia, Russia, Russia. Remember, we had the New York Times, someone leak a memo from them saying that they screwed up with the Russia coverage for 2 years, so now they have to switch to the Trump racism coverage because they're not real journalists. They were working in cahoots with the intelligence agency, with Barack Obama and the establishment Democratic Party to take down Trump. To one, try to keep him from being elected, and when they screwed that up, to stop his agenda and keep him from being reelected. So if this is true, and Solomon says this lawyer for Mifsud not only told him that, but told Barr and John Durham, who's investigating this, and the Inspector General Horowitz, told him these accusations, that actually Mifsud was working for Western intelligence, and this was all a setup from the beginning, and actually has audio deposition to prove this. If this is true, again, I've been saying this is the biggest political scandal in the history of this country. Barack Obama's agencies, the most powerful intelligence agencies in the history of the world, set up Trump's team by feeding him a lie on one hand, hey, Russians have emails on Hillary, and then when Papadopoulos, who's just a low-level guy, repeats to someone else, I heard the Russians have emails on Hillary, they use that as the reason to investigate, which starts this whole sham, which we know is a lie, just like the dossier that we know is a lie. All of it was a lie. So look for the media to be ignoring this. Look for people that have been saying, I've been talking about Mifsud's shady connections and how terrible the whole George Papadopoulos story is for 2 years now. And people have brushed me off and said, oh, no. It can't be. It's a conspiracy theory that you think Mifsud was Western intelligence. No, it's not. The evidence points more to connections of Western intelligence than Russian intelligence. And now we have Mifsud's own lawyer supposedly telling a very credible journalist Mifsud was working with Western intelligence. Now, as always, we should remain to see. I want to see the evidence for myself. Hopefully this eventually comes out. But if this is the case, this means that it's probably the CIA. That's who John Solomon thinks was leading this, which is John Brennan, who works for CNN now, that was doing this. And who was his boss? Barack Obama. That's where the buck should stop, with Barack Obama. But if this is true, and Solomon's been very good in reporting, but we should still wait to see the evidence for ourselves, this does rise to the level of possible treason, of having a coup, spreading a lie to try to bring down a duly elected president, or sedition at the very least. So, hey, if you like this content, please like and subscribe. Please follow me on BitChute as well. Subscribe to me there on Robert Knorr. It really helps to have cross platforms. Recommend me to some other people if you can, and look for more content in the future. So, thanks everyone, and have a good one.